Ladies and gentlemen, here we are with a special guest, Edward the Eagle. And Edward, you look a little bit dusty, but that's beside the point. Edward's here today to tell us about Baker Mayfield. Edward said Baker Mayfield is trash. He said OBJ cares more about a watch than he does about getting yards. And I think both of those things are true. Edward, that's enough of you. The Cleveland Browns won a couple games this year, but let's be honest here, folks. If they didn't play the trash Jets and they didn't have a fantastic run game by Nick Chubb, this team may be 1-7. 1-7. Baker Mayfield maybe should put more time into his game than he does into State Farm commercials. You see the way he ran in that commercial to get his girl something across field? Maybe if he ran like that on the field, he wouldn't get sacked 10 times a game. This is your NFL Week 8 review. Don't go anywhere. 8th week, and we are halfway through the NFL season, and if there's one thing I know, that is that this setup in here, in this room, is atrocious. But for some reason, I'm not able to use the living room today for my video, which I like to use better because the lighting there generally is better, just in general. But we're going to be using this for the Week 8 review, and I'm also going to be probably rolling out videos about top 5s also, which I said about the other day. And yeah, Baker Mayfield wasn't having fun yesterday, even though, you know, this team, the Cleveland Browns, just in general, we all kind of knew that they were overhyped going into the season. I thought that they would be able to play a little bit better than they have. I know they've had some tough teams, but the reality of it is they really only had one dominating performance, and that was against the Jets. And that seems like something that a lot of teams are able to do this season, as the Jets are just getting roasted. There's no word for how bad New York football is, and I can't really put it into words to tell you how bad it is, especially being surrounded by it and surrounded by its fans, who, you know, most fan bases are very loyal fans to their team, and I can respect that, especially being a Knicks fan. And I'll make a separate video talking about the Knicks, because I can't be bothered with that right now. But you're talking about the Week 8 of the NFL. We've got some games on here, some blowouts, a little bit of everything in between. But as of right now, if the Steelers win tonight, assuming they will, but they could easily lose, I would be 13-2 in my predictions, which is not too bad because I usually don't do predictions. But the first game to go over is the Broncos, who went to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. And the Broncos, this is another game where they have lost by 3 or less points, and they are just, there's no life in the Denver Broncos outside of the defense. No superb standout performers pretty much in this game. Marlon Mack for Indianapolis rushed for 76 yards. And Adam Vinatieri, who has missed a lot of field goals earlier in the season, hit a game-winning field goal to give the Colts the lead with 22 seconds left, and that was the icing on the cake. And the Colts kept rolling. The Colts are 5-2, and I don't know how many games consecutively they have won. Somebody would have to tell me that. But the Indianapolis Colts get the win over the Denver Broncos, who are easily one of the most disappointing teams of the first half of the season, and I think that this team is done. There's no playoff for the Denver Broncos. I don't think how they could do it. I don't know how they would do it, but they are 2-6 on the season, and their misery continues. And here comes a smile, because I'm talking about the Tennessee Titans. In the second game, the Titans hosting the Buccaneers. Ryan Tannehill does it again. He was not a standout performer. He didn't give you 300 yards. He didn't give you 5 touchdowns. He didn't give you 3 touchdowns. But he did enough, and he looked decent, and he made this offense look good again. But majority of it is our defense, our Sharks. And I've said that before, and if you watch the Titans or you follow them, you know that also. Even to the point where our pass rush had gotten some sacks in this game, and our pass rush really hasn't been that great this year outside of the first game of the season. But how hard is it to have a pass rush against the Cleveland Browns? Let's be honest here. But the Titans were winners of this game. Our defense forced 4 turnovers, 2 of those being picks. Tannehill does enough to win, and Jonnu Smith was the top performer for the Titans. He also had a good showing. I think he had 70-something yards. Winston looked like a lost child, and that's been the moral of the story for him this season, generally speaking. He has not looked, he's had a game where he's been really dominant, and then he just completely craps the bed. Buccaneers are also a disappointing team. Winston, like I said, looked like a lost child, but Mike Evans was one of the first receivers to rip our secondary, and he had 198 yards with 11 receptions. Henry was a solid running day for Derrick Henry on the Titans, 75 yards on the day. But majority of it is that the Titans defense won this game and kept them in check. Jameis Winston looked all lost all day. However, it was still a close game. 27-23 Titans was your final in this game. The Titans will go through Carolina to take on the Panthers next week, and our schedule is about to kick up a lot. The next game to review is the Saints hosting the Cardinals, and this game went exactly how I thought it would go, and then some. Drew Brees made his season return for the New Orleans Saints, and he played well. He had 373 yards, 3 touchdowns. Their backup running back, Latavius Murray, is showing why the Saints are such a deep team. He had 102 yards rushing. Michael Thomas continues to show why he is probably on paper the best receiver in the NFL this year at least. He dominated again. He had 11 receptions, 112 yards. Kyler Murray did not look awful, but he didn't look great. The Cardinals belong nowhere in this game. 31-9 final. Saints win. The Saints are 7-1 on the year, and I don't know who they play next, and I don't know who the Cardinals play next. Bengals at Rams. This was a London game. I had no knowledge of that, but I found out, and it is what it is. 372 yards for Goff. Cooper Kupp had a great game. He had 7 receptions for 220 yards. The Bengals remain winless. 24-10 Rams final. Bengals suck. Bengals suck. It's just like, it's gotten to a point now where you can't even make fun of them. It's just sad at this point. And I feel like there's a couple teams where it's just gotten to that point. The next team is one of those teams where I'm going to talk about getting sad. I expected the Bengals to struggle this year, but I did not expect them to be 0-8 halfway through the season. But that was the icing on the cake. The Rams are 5-3, I think. They're 5-3, and they are 6th seed in the NFC. So if that doesn't show you how tough the NFC is, a 5-win team through 8 weeks in the season is 5th on the board. The NFC is a dogfight, and whoever comes out of that and is representing the Super Bowl will have no questions about not deserving it, while the AFC has maybe 2-3 teams tops that could really give you a stinger. The Jets going to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. Sam Darnold looked miserable 2 weeks straight. So far this year, outside of the Dallas game, Sam Darnold has looked absolutely hopeless. 3 picks on Sunday, and the team around him has done nothing to support him. The Jaguars beat the Jets 29-15. Some stats for the day would be that Chris Conley for Jacksonville caught 100 yards plus for the Jaguars, and Minshew looked very good, throwing for 3 touchdowns. Somebody help New York football. Somebody help the Jets. The Giants at least are looking somewhat relevant, and they don't look that bad, I would say. But the Jets just look so bad, and it's been a tale of 2 tapes. The Jets have just been so bad for years, and it's just, I really thought that this was a year where they were going to break out and maybe do something. I know Darnold was out a few games, but even that, I mean, he just, even since he came back, I think that Dallas game may have just been luck, because it just, they look so bad. No defense, no offense. It's just really ugly. But I did pick the Jaguars to win, and that was another game I was right on. The Giants going to Detroit to take on the Lions. Daniel Jones, my buddy, old pal, Daniel Jones had himself actually a good day. I don't know his stat line, but I know he had 300-plus yards. He didn't have any crucial turnovers. Golden Tate was also good for the Giants. He had 85 yards. Barkley ran for 64 yards, which is okay as well. Ken Golladay was the top performer of the day for the Detroit Lions, 6 receptions, 123 yards. And at the end of the day, the Lions were able to get this win, 31-26 over the Giants, who will host, I believe, next Monday night, the Dallas Cowboys, who are coming off of a bye week. So I can't make fun of the Cowboys this week. They will host them, and we'll see what happens from there. But if the Giants wanted to, they're not going to make the playoffs, but if they wanted to remain somewhat relevant, they could really make a statement against the Cowboys and give them something to be shocked about again, too. But the next game, which I should have also gotten right, was the Chargers and the Bears in Chicago. It was a big running day for David Montgomery of the Bears, 135 yards and a touchdown. Bears miss game-winning field goal as time expires to give the Chargers a lucky win. That is something the Bears have perfected, is the art of missing a field goal to win the game. 17-16, Chargers hang on. Outside of David Montgomery, no top performers in this game. Didn't really look up Phillip Rivers' stats because I don't need to, because the Chargers suck. But yet, somehow, some way, they were able to get the win. The next game was the game that I was wrong about, and I was completely wrong about. The Philadelphia Eagles going to Buffalo to take on the Buffalo Bills. I was one of those people that had said that, oh, well, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to not score shit against this Bills defense, and boy, was I wrong. Miles Sanders had a good day for the Eagles, a 65-yard touchdown run in this game. Josh Allen looked like a lost child. Carson Wentz had a solid performance, but again, the Eagles fans are starting to celebrate their Super Bowl again in the most non-consistent team in the NFL. 31-13, they rip right through the Bills. And I don't know the Eagles have next week or the Bills, but I do know that the Eagles need to build on this, and they really need to go on a stretch if they want to win this NFC East, because it's almost like the Eagles and Cowboys are both trying to not win the NFC East and hoping that someone accidentally does win it. I think the NFC East could easily come down to the last week of the season, the Eagles and the Cowboys, but we will see what happens there. But the Cowboys were definitely the ones that put the Eagles on notice in that Monday night game. Or Sunday night game, I'm sorry. And that's it. The next game against against the Atlanta Falcons, who were one of the most disappointing teams of the year. Solid day all around. It was a team performance for the Seahawks, who went to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. Chris Carson ran for 90 yards. Tyler Lockett 6 receptions, 100 yards. Matt Schaub for Atlanta. Atlanta quarterbacks like to throw for yards, but they don't like to win. 460 yards, but he had 52 pass attempts. So as you can see, their run game was nowhere in this game. Julio had a great game, however. You knew if he had 460 yards, Julio was going to be somewhere in that mix. 10 receptions, 152 yards for Julio Jones. The Atlanta offense giving their quarterback yards and stats, but not wins. 27-20 final, Seattle wins. Why did I do that? Because the Falcons suck, and I have to review about them every single week, and they lose every single game. They were somehow in this game, but the Seattle Seahawks rebound from a loss to the Baltimore Ravens the week before. Baltimore Ravens were off this week, so there'll be no reviewing of the Baltimore Ravens. Now, this was another 4 o'clock game, and goddamn, I was a hater of the 49ers. Not a hater, but just a non-believer, thinking that it was just wins put together and not much substance behind it. But the 49ers obliterated the Carolina Panthers. And there was a video of Brian Burns in the pregame huddle saying, "We want the smoke, we want the smoke, we want all the smoke." Well, damn, you got it. McCaffrey ran well, like he has been after being quiet most of this game. He had 117 yards. The Panthers could not muster up much else. Kyle Allen looked like trash. 17 for 39 with 3 picks. George Kittle, a top receiver for San Francisco, 6 receptions, 86 yards. But the big story of the day was the running, which has been a big story all year for the 49ers. Tevin Coleman ran for 105 yards, 4 touchdowns. So if you had him on your fantasy, which I don't know how many people would, but it was a happy day for you. The 49ers obliterate the Panthers 51-13. The Panthers will host the Tennessee Titans next week. And I don't know where the 49ers go, but this undefeated streak could be going for a little bit longer here, folks. Some games they've gotten close to losing, but then there are others where they just, boom. 3 more games left to review here. The Raiders going to Houston to take on the Texans, and I was debating picking the Raiders before this game, just because they've been a impressive team for the most part this year. But the Texans edged this one out. Both quarterbacks played well. Derek Carr and Deshaun Watson both played well in this game. They each threw for 3 touchdowns. Carlos Hyde ran well for the Texans, 83 yards. Hopkins was a good top receiver, 11 receptions, 109 yards. Tyrell Williams was the top receiver for Oakland, getting 3 receptions for 91 yards. At the end of the day, Houston edged this one out with a late touchdown, I believe. 27-24, Texans win. And that was that. The next game, which was a game that I actually watched. It was the Browns going to New England to take on the undefeated Patriots. Now, well, I know I shit on Baker Mayfield in the beginning of the video, but when all reality is said and done, it was not as bad as I thought. Patriots won this game 27-13, but I thought that it was going to be a lot worse. Nick Chubb continues to be fantastic, which he has been all season for the Cleveland Browns. He was dominant. He rushed for 131 yards in this game. Edelman was a good receiver for New England, 2 touchdowns, but Mayfield was under pressure most of this evening, as he has been all season, because the Cleveland line is a bag of chips. Long story said in short, the Browns are trash, and the Odell Beckham Jr. was nowhere in this game. Trash. Sorry, Odell Beckham Jr. is no longer a top receiver in the NFL, at least not what I've seen. 27-13, New England wins. The final game of your Sunday, not the week, final game of your Sunday was Kansas City Chiefs without Mahomes hosting the Green Bay Packers. And if Aaron Rodgers is not your MVP frontrunner right now, I would love to know who is. Aaron Jones does a little bit of everything here for the Green Bay Packers. He was the top receiver, and he ran for 67 yards as well. Aaron Rodgers continues his MVP-like performance with a beautiful 305 yards and 3 touchdowns. I believe Tyreek Hill had 74 yards maybe for the Kansas City Chiefs in this game. 31-24 final. Green Bay moves to 7-1 after their Sunday night victory. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Chiefs look when Mahomes comes back, because they are desperately missing his presence. And the final game of the week is tonight, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers hosting the Miami Dolphins. And I don't care what color the air is. I don't care if water's wet. If the Pittsburgh Steelers lose tonight, they drop from one of the worst teams in the NFL to maybe the worst team in the NFL. There's no reason to lose to Miami Dolphins at home. I don't care if you have no quarterback. Long story short, this was your NFL Week 8 review. And I got some top 5s coming, and I got some top 5s rolling out. I might even roll one out today. I do not know. We're going to see where that goes and how it goes. This week in the NFL was kind of how I saw it coming for most teams. You had that one blowout, but not much else. Everybody, thank you for watching the NFL Week 8 review. Stay square.